So my next topic is Chapter 12 Romantic Interlude in Japan 1888. So on February 28 to April 13, 1888, it is one of the happiest interludes in the life of Rizal was his sojourn in land of cherry blossoms for 1 month and a half. So he was enchanted by the natural beauty of Japan, the charming manners of the Japanese people, and the picturesque shrines. He fell in love with a Japanese girl, loveliness infused joy and romance sorrowing heart. Her real name was Sikoyosoi, so cut short of his happy days in Japan, he had to sacrifice his own happiness to carry on his work, the redemption of his oppressed people. Rizal arrives in Yokohama. So, early in the morning of Tuesday, February 28, 1888, Rizal arrived in Yokohama. He registered at a grand hotel. The next day, he processed to Tokyo and took a room at Tokyo Hotel, where he stayed from March 2 to 7. Rizal wrote to Professor Blumentritt that the Tokyo is more expensive than Paris, and walls are built in cyclopean manner, the streets large and wide. So, after Rizal's arrival in Tokyo, he was visited at his hotel by Juan Perez Caballero. The latter invited him to live at the Spanish legation. So, he accepted the invitation for two reasons. First, he could economize this living expense by staying at the legation, and second, he had nothing to hide from the prying eyes of the Spanish authorities. And on March 7, Rizal checked out of Tokyo Hotel and lived at the Spanish legation. Rizal also embarrassed for the do not know how to speak Japanese language. So in his letter to Blumentritt, here you have my friend Rizal the wonder of Japanese, who was the face of Japanese but does not speak Japanese. Rizal and the Tokyo musicians. He was impressed by the superb performances of the Western music approach the band inquiring in Tagalog, Paisano, taga saan po kayo? There are five Rizal's impression of Japan. First, the beauty of the country, the flowers, mountains, streams, and scenic panoramas. Second, the cleanliness, politeness, and industry of the Japanese people. Third, the picturesque dress and simple charm of the Japanese women. Fourth, there were very few thieves in Japan. Fifth, beggars were rarely seen in the streets. So, the following afternoon, Rizal and the Japanese gardener waited at the legation gate and watched for the girl. As she approached, he took off his hat and politely introduced himself. Was a costume in Germany, and that time Rizal's Japanese was still very poor, so that the gardener came to his aid and explained to the girl that the young man was a physician from Manila who was a guest of the Spanish legation. Since that first meeting, Rizal and O-Sei-San, as Rizal called her, meet almost daily. Together, they visited the interesting of the spots of the city, Imperial Art Gallery, the Imperial Library, the universities, the Botanical Garden. Rizal saw in lovely O-Sei-San the qualities of his ideal womanhood, beauty, charm, modesty, and intelligence, so no wonder he fell deeply in love with her. O-Sei-San helped Rizal in many ways, more than a sweetheart. She was his guide, interpreter, and tutor. She guided him in observing the shrines and villages around Tokyo. She improved his knowledge of Nippongo, or Japanese language, and Japanese history. O-Sei-San beauty and the affection almost tempted Rizal to settle down in Japan. At the same time, he was offered a good job at the Japanese legation. If he were a man of lesser heroic mold, of lesser willpower, he would have lived permanently in Japan and happily and that with O-Sei-San, but then the world in general and the Philippines in particular would have lost a Rizal. Rizal's great love for O-Sei-San is attested by the hero's diary. On the eve of his departure, he wrote in his diary, "To you, I dedicate the final chapter of these memoirs of my youth. No woman like you has ever sacrificed for me, like the flower of the chuji that falls from the steamed fish, and whole without falling leaves or without weathering with poetry still despite its fall does you. Neither have you lost your purity, nor have the delicate petals of your innocence faded. Sayonara, sayonara." So, on April 13, 1888, Rizal boarded the Belgic an English steamer at Yokohama, bound for the United States. He left Japan with a heavy heart, for he knew that he would never see this beautiful land of the cherry blossoms, and his beloved O-Sei-San. Truly, his sojourn in Japan for 45 days was of the happiest interludes on his life. O-Sei-San after Rizal's departure. It is broken-hearted by the departure of Rizal, the first man to capture her heart. O-Sei-San mourned for a long time the loss of her lover. Eventually, she became resigned to her fate, cherishing unto death the nostalgia of her romance with Rizal. So their wedlock was teaching. Charlton was awarded by the Japanese government with an imperial decoration. So Mrs. Charlton or O-Sei-San, as a widow, lived in a comfortable home in Shinjuku District, Tokyo. She survived World War II, but her home was destroyed in 1944 by the US bombing of Tokyo. She died on May 1, 1947 at the age of 80. She was buried in her husband's tomb of Zoshigawa Cemetery, a Japanese inscription on their tomb. So one day, one of the children, a bright young boy, asked Rizal nga, "Sir, do you know a famous man in Manila named Rizal? He wrote a novel, Noli Me Tangere." Tas ni ana si Rizal nga, "Yes, iho, I am Rizal." Tapos, in a great joy, the boy rushed to his mother, informing her that the famous man is their fellow passenger. She facilitated Rizal, they feeling proud that they were traveling with a celebrity. So, another passenger which Rizal befriended on board the Belgic was Ticho Suhiro, a fighting Japanese journalist, novelist, and a champion of human rights who was forced by the Japanese government to leave the country, just as Rizal was compelled to leave the Philippines by the Japanese authorities. So, Rizal told Tichu the story of his life's mission to emancipate his oppressed people from Spanish tyranny and the persecutions which and his family suffered from the vindictive Spanish officials and bad friars, causing him to flee to foreign countries where he could freely carry on his libertarian activities. So, on December 1, 1888, Rizal and Tichu had their last warm handshake and bid each other goodbye. In 1889, shortly after his return to Japan, Tichu published his travel diary which contained his impressions of Rizal. Tichu died of heart attack in Tokyo in February 1886. 10 months before Rizal's execution, he was then 49 years old.